If you're looking for some straight-up marketing advice that's super chilled and also a bit of a laugh, then grab yourself a drink and get ready for Marketing and Margaritas, a podcast that makes marketing entertaining. Brought to you by Rebel Nation, direct from regional Queensland.
Hello and welcome to Marketing and Margaritas. Today we have the amazing Andrew Phillips from NQBE in Mackay joining us today, and we are talking how to better leverage your IT developments in your marketing efforts.
Yes, so obviously IT has been developing at a very rapid pace, at least in my lifetime, but especially in the last few years. It just seems to be accelerating, and that overlap between IT and marketing, there's so much that people can be using that potentially they're not. So we basically just want to pick your brain and get all the answers so that we can do them. But first of all, let's talk about you. What got you into IT, Andrew?
That's a really funny story, and reflecting upon it. I was never meant to be in IT, so school wasn't for me. Academically just wasn't for me. All I wanted to do was work, 100%.
Okay.
Wasn't me. So at age 14 and 9 months, because that's when you can go get a job,
Yeah.
I went and secured an electrical apprenticeship, unbeknownst to my parents.
Oh, dude.
So I'd done all the legwork, done the interview.
Because you're so driven. Like, I always think of you as a very driven sort of person. To think that you weren't into school, I'm like, I would have thought that would be quite a thing.
No, academically definitely wasn't for me. I'd much rather
be doing something with your hands.
Yeah. 100%.
So are you a Sparky by trade then?
No, I'm not. This is how I am where I am today. So very young, there was back in the days, advertisements were in newspapers. So I responded to a newspaper where I grew up, and it was all good. And where it came about, I used to go camping with my uncle every Easter. And we're at a family function a few weeks before Easter, and I just said to him, Russell, I'm not going to be able to come camping with you this year. I'm going to be starting an apprenticeship. And that was the first time my mum and dad had heard about Andrew leaving school.
I bet they were super happy they heard about it that way.
No.
Look, it could have been worse. You could have had no job and you were just like, I'm not going anymore.
Yeah, true.
And you're a father now as well.
Yes.
Like, you imagine your kids doing that to you.
100%.
I think that shows initiative. If my child did that, I'm like, well, you're going to get paid. You can give me rent for your board. We can work this out.
Yeah, it's in hindsight, you look back and go, I should have had a conversation first, but
yeah, fair enough.
I knew I just wanted to work. So that was the first night that my parents heard me. Within a week, it became evident that my mum just wasn't going to let me do an apprenticeship because education, getting a Year 12 certificate
was really important to her.
Yeah, 100%. And sort of going back now and realising, from the era that my parents would have come from, education was gold, but that just wasn't for me. So at the time, my dad was working for a fruit company, and the two guys that done his IT just spun out and started their own shop. So as a compromise, Dad came to me going, hey...
So he was the peacemaker between you and your mum.
Well and truly, because Mum was adamant of Year 12 certificate.
This is what you're going to do.
My dad
and you're like, that's not what I'm going to do.
No, 100%. My dad left when he was 14 to become a shearer.
Yeah.
So he was sort of on my side of the fence going,
I get it.
You're going to work, but you need your education. And the brokerage point was I started a school-based apprenticeship with these couple of guys who started their own IT company where I grew up in Mildura.
Right, okay. Oh, do you grew up in Mildura?
I sure did.
Oh, right. It's beautiful there.
It is lovely. Yeah, country Victoria, and that's how I got into IT.
Right.
It was a compromise because I wanted to work, but I also needed to finish Year 12.
So, compromise that your dad brought about, and yet you've been in IT your whole career?
Yes. Yeah.
That's pretty impressive, man.
Yeah, it came down to the similarities. Back when I started my trade, now as an IT tech, there were similarities between electrical work and IT.
Yeah.
We're doing, component-based
cabling
repairs,
and all that sort of shit.
100%.
Yeah.
It was really hardware-based back then, I would have
100%.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of similarities at that time.
And doing stuff with your hands and everything or whatever.
100%, yeah.
Okay.
And obviously, we touched on at the start, the evolution of IT is since grown
Try and stay up to date with that shit, man.
Oh, yeah. It's what we do. But yeah, that's how I got into IT. Like I said, I wasn't supposed to be here by default. I was going to be an electrician.
Yeah, but as someone who's not IT minded, that seems like a really technical, like if you're following from not wanting to do education, going into IT seems like a really technical kind of thing. It doesn't really flow.
Yeah, so my personality type is if I enjoy it, I'll excel.
Yeah.
And I think
it's easier to learn
it.
when you enjoy something.
Correct.
Yeah. And so then how long ago is it that you started with NQBE?
So I started when I was 20.
Oh,
NQBE,
wow.
Yeah, so,
I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah, so I moved up to Mackay just as I turned 20. And was
Because you're
lucky
40
enough-
this year, aren't you?
Yes, just turned 40.
Yeah,
March,
so it's 20 years, 2 decades.
Yeah, so technically from the employment side, it's 19 years this year.
All right.
My 20th year next year.
Right,
How
okay.
it all works out, because I turned 21 not long after I joined
Oh,
the company.
Right. Yep.
But yeah, I started in February when I was 20, and here I am 19 years later.
Okay, and what did you start off as, sorry?
Yeah, so this is a funny story too. So I was an IT tech, right? And, you know, a bit of ego, I class myself as a pretty good tech. So I went and knocked on every IT company in Mackay at that time's door going, I'm a tech, I'm a good tech, have you got a job? And I'd driven past the big Xerox sign a few times, and I have a love-hate relationship with fixing printers. One of those things that could I? Yes. Did I enjoy it? At that time was no. So I resisted walking into it.
To go into that one. Yeah. That sign just kept being like a deterrent to you as opposed to a beacon.
Yes. You know, Evans Avenue, where it is now, it used to be a main thoroughfare before you had the little bypass roads and that, so you had to go past it a lot. And there was a company at the time that's no longer around, unfortunately. Hugh was the owner from CRC. He goes, Andrew, listen, I don't have a job for you, but go and see Mike Webb at NQBE. He likes to give young fellas a start. And the funny part of this is, you know, I was a couple of weeks from having to go on the dole. And in my mind's sight, right, I was a worker going...
Especially for someone who wanted to work.
You've got a deadline. It's really impressive.
That would have felt really like on your back.
100%. And I didn't want to rely on mum and dad or anything else like that. So I did. I walked in with my resume and...
like fucking print sign. Jesus, what am I doing here?
It gets better. It gets better. I've done my whole spiel as a tech and going, you know what, I'm going to have to fix printers. That's okay. I'll make it work. And Mike came out and went, well, I've got no technical jobs. In my heart.
I've only got printer.
No, I've only got junior sales jobs.
Oh.
Yeah, so there was no technical roles at all. And it was funny because, you know, the memory that sticks in my mind, which is I just went, yes. He goes, I pay $400 a week, you pay your own fuel supply, your own car. All I heard was I'm getting $350 a week, right? At that time, a tank of fuel was $50.
Yeah.
So I'm like, cool, I've got a job.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Sold.
Yes. And that's what it was. And it was 2 weeks later after that, my dad come and grabbed me going, there was another computer company at the time going, Andrew, they want to offer you a job. I went,
as a tech,
As a tech. And I've gone, oh no, I've already committed. And
I've told this guy that I'm going to do this.
Correct. I shook his hand.
And you're very much that kind of person too, man. I can see that.
That's what drove me. I go, no, I've made a commitment. I'm not going to go back on my word. And 19 years later.
Yeah, I was going to say that commitment still.
Yes.
So junior salesperson.
Yeah.
And then what happened then?
So it was a progression. So I found my feet, a baptism of fire of, you know, how to sell, learning to sell. My strength was the technical strength. So I could articulate, you know, the technical outcomes.
Which people knew that they would be able to trust you because you actually knew what you were talking about. You weren't just reading from a script or a book or anything. Like, oh yeah, you need an I-95 on that process. Actually,
this is the latest model that we've got on sale. It's what you need.
It's definitely what you need.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I ended up enjoying it. I ended up really enjoying being able to blend that technical aspect with getting outcomes.
And you're very much a people person too. Like I can see that whole problem solving aspect of like giving people solutions and everything would have been very fulfilling for you too.
And it is, and it's still one of the biggest highs I get today in helping a business overcome a challenge with technology.
Yeah.
So that's
what IT should be used for, man. It's not there to be a pain in the ass and hinder you. And I know that that's rich coming from me because I hate IT in many aspects, but I just hate it when things don't work, sort of thing. But having said that, like, you know, even now, like I was using ChatGPT on the weekend to do a few things, and that's probably old AI now these days, but it was so much fun and I was enjoying myself and I was like, you know, I was writing some things and I was like, oh, I haven't quite got the wording here, and I pop it in and have a play with it. And it was when you embrace those things, it actually makes it fun, you know, what you do, rather than it being scary and a hindrance, or I've got to learn this whole new thing now, sort of thing, which I think a lot of people feel.
And the perfect word is embrace. Technology isn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's only
100%,
bigger, stronger. You talk about AI, you've got your ChatGPT, another iteration has just been released, so we're at 4.0 now. You've got Google's version of Bard. You know, look what Apple's just released with their augmented reality headsets.
I haven't seen that.
Hey, it's Apple do Apple things.
Yeah.
It's amazing, but they've changed the concept of virtual reality to now augmented reality, and in the business landscape, that's just gold.
Yeah.
Because how do we augment our work practices with technology for efficiency?
Oh, okay. I was going to say, because augmented reality is already a thing, but wow.
They're starting to really combine that AI component with the augmented reality or AR component using virtual reality.
Oh, dude, that is so cool.
Yeah, it's coming a long way. Microsoft's got their own version, HoloLens, but theirs is pretty much tied up with the US government at the moment.
Oh, rightio.
But the sort of use cases of that augmented reality is thinking of a construction company, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're having a look at two-dimensional plans printed out on A1 or AO paper. That augmented reality allows you to see it in 3D real time. And the use case is well, if that door goes there, it's going to impact a pillar or a bollard or whatever that you just wouldn't see on a 2D plan.
Yeah. So really helping you visualize that space and therefore improve and enhance the designs before you even get started on footings and shit.
You're exactly right. So I think the use case is engineering. You know, being able to rapidly prototype a fuel tank, wind resistance.
I've got this idea. Will it actually work? Tung, 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 tung. No, because of this and this. Okay, how do I overcome that?
Correct.
That efficiency and savings would be massive.
Yes.
And from concept to completion as well, like just the speed,
You don't have to go and invent a whole heap of tooling requirements and go through many iterations of physical product. You can now do it virtually and get to your end product, then build.
Faster and quicker and cheaper.
Yep.
Oh, man, that's so cool.
It is. It's exciting. It's really exciting.
All right, so IT and marketing. What are the gaps in small business? So obviously that's some pretty big stuff.
Yeah, probably some of that.
A little bit like mind-blowing there. But what are some of the gaps in small business that you see are potentially missing opportunities with IT?
Because I think I know you work with a lot of large enterprise and government agencies stuff just like we do, but I think you're like us too, where it's like you do like a lot of SME work sort of thing. And I think being able to break these big concepts down for local business is really important sort of thing.
Yeah, some of the gaps are, in my opinion, we've got to get SME thinking of IT as your profit driver, not a cost centre.
Okay.
And when you start to look at how do I use IT to drive my business forward, we can start to fill in some of the gaps. There's a perception that IT is still expensive.
Yeah.
It's not. It's really not. When you break it down, and the advent and the move to a more cloud-based industry has really lessened those costs. It's to the point now where, a 4, 5, 6 person organisation can really compete with large multinationals at a fraction of the cost they could 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's one of the big things in that world of SME is change of mindset. Is take it away from a cost to a profit driver in your business.
How can this actually help me grow my business as opposed to what have I got to pay, what I have to pay for now?
Absolutely. Yeah. If we can sort of drive that, it changes outcomes for that business. It allows them to grow or it just allows them to get to their customer quicker. And, it's understanding what is that business's goals? What are they trying to get an outcome on? And how does IT complement that?
And so from that sales and marketing perspective then, are there any particular tools or approaches or products or anything that you think that, small businesses should be investigating, if not embracing? Absolutely.
So AI is hot on the topic. It has to be investigated and understood of how it can help a business and its efficiency. Once again, a lot of the fears of technology is that it's coming in to replace jobs. I've got a fundamental argument against that.
Yeah.
It's how does it complement a job? How does technology free up a person?
Oh yeah, I just feel so that I feel exactly the same way. A friend of mine was telling me the other day that he was really concerned because with AI, like the image journey or journey image or what it's called, and ChatGPT and all that sort of stuff. He's like, Jade, you're not going to have a marketing agency in 5 years. Like, what are you going to do? And I'm just like, dude, I'm going to have the best motherfucking agency ever because we're going to be so on top of all of that shit and using it, and we're going to be able to do things quicker and better and faster and provide better outcomes for clients, and they can still do what they do well. We'll just do marketing even better than what we do it today.
And never forget the human element. No matter what we do, we need to interact with people. So technology can be a barrier or can be seen as a way of how do I not get in front of a person? Small business is critical relationships.
Yeah.
How do you get an interface with your partners? And we can do a lot over technology.
Yeah.
But it's that human element, it's that human link that we're always going to need.
And that trust and credibility too.
We noticed through COVID, we all missed that. like working from home, just as if like we still did daily meetings over video and we saw each other every day.
To keep connection and stuff and
Like,
collaboration in the
It's
team.
still not the same thing as to seeing, interacting and being around your clients and your team and your people.
And whether it's the people that you work with as a team member or people you work with, you know, supplier and relation, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's just richer when you're actually able to sit down with someone. Like, and I just think of us, you know, we need to buy a new printer. I know that. And I really don't fucking want to. So, no offense, but so boring. But I was getting excited when you were showing me them the other day because it is pretty cool, I have to admit. They actually are Pantone correct. Can you imagine how Casey is going to like freak? Anyway, so sorry. That's what we're talking about with the tangents happening. But I could go on to Google or anything and just say what type of printer to get for my business. Here's my bits and pieces or whatever. And I'm sure it would come up with quite useful recommendations or whatever. But it's going based on my inputs, and I don't know if my inputs are correct because I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Whereas if I go to you and say, hey, this, and this, and you go, yep, Jade, this is one you need, I'm going to go, cool, Andrew, thanks, let's package that up and ship it on over, or whatever you do with that.
That's a human element. The trend in any industry now is our buyers are more educated, and that's both a good and bad thing together, because you hit the nail on the head. It's you're coming at from your perspective in your business, but we've then got to trust in the experts that are out there. So, you know, that's where your friends saying you're not going to have a marketing agency in 5 years. No, that's not true. If you embrace what's in front of you, you're the expert.
And doing it with with those tools.
Yeah, and we see internet buying, it's a pitfall for so many small businesses because they think they know what they need and want.
And they're just seeing the bottom dollar.
Correct.
Why would I pay you for this and you'll upsell me and I'll end up spending X amount when I can just order it online?
Correct. And the perfect example of that is in the Microsoft Windows. We have Windows Professional and Windows Home, right? So any business environment should have Windows Pro. It's been around for ages. And one of the pitfalls that we see is how do companies make a computer cheaper?
Yeah.
They don't put the Pro license on it, they put the Home license on it. So that an uneducated buyer will go and buy this.
It's still got what I need to do the job.
It's Microsoft. What are you talking about? I got what I need.
Yeah.
What is the difference between home and professional?
It's the way it interacts into networks and how it communicates. So in business in particular, of how we can log into systems. So how do we start to build that base level foundation of cybersecurity? I had to bring that in there somewhere early on. But that's where it starts to build the fundamental of a commercial or business environment. And there's a pitfall, right? Because it's not easily called out. People don't know. All they're seeing is that it's a couple $100 cheaper.
And they're just going to, like you said, go for what that bottom price is. Yeah.
The unfortunate reality is, though, is when they make that transaction, then realise that they need Pro.
They have to spend even more to fix the problem.
Yeah.
That's correct.
And we get the same thing in marketing as well, man, where it's like people go, oh, you know, 2 different website quotes, you know, this one's $5,000, this one's $2,000. Obviously, I'm going to go for this. You get that $2,000 website and it's useless and you have to pay $5,000 to get the new. So you spend $7,000 on your website. Having said that, sometimes you can only afford the $2,000 one. So you make do with what you've got to make do with. But if you're looking at whether the investment's going to be worth it or not, sometimes you do need to actually go with the professional, the expert, etc. sort of thing, because in the long run, your life's going to be so much easier for forking out the extra cash.
If we can just focus on that great analogy of a website at $5,000 and $2,000, right? Sometimes budget, you said, dictates that I've got to spend $2,000.
Yeah.
But this is where that human element comes in, because if we come and have an open conversation with Jade and your team to go, we want the $5,000 website, we can't afford it right now.
This is my budget at this point.
So what stepping stones do we have to put in now to make sure that when I can afford the $5,000, I'm not having to pay 10?
And that's so true, because there are things you can go and like, okay, we'll do a really stripped down version and just have this. And then, you know, in a year's time when you've got more cash flow, you can add on the extra half that you wanted or whatever it is.
It's that foundation building, right? And so it keeps coming back to human element, trusted partners, and that's that missing gap in some of the SME world. We get it. You know, cash is king. You got to operate your business, but there's so many fundamental things that we need in any size business. You've got to lay the foundation correctly.
Speaking of any size business, so that's the other thing I wanted to ask you about as well, is that, so we're talking a lot about SMEs and stuff. If we go a bit broader, so NQBE is actually a part of a family of IT companies across, so we're Darwin, Bundaberg, Rocky and Mackay.
And Gladstone and Harvey Bay.
Oh, yeah, because they go to those catchment areas. Sorry. I should know that. You're my client. Sorry. I'm terrible at geography, so let's just blame that. So when you think about marketing across that broader, bigger picture, what are some of the challenges that you have seen and overcome, et cetera, from marketing as a bigger business with multiple locations, multiple different types of teams, brands, et cetera, like some lessons you've learned there?
It's getting the messaging right and understanding what our group wants to message, but then also understanding that local content. That's been a really steep learning curve since I've joined with Rebel. You've posed a lot of questions and they're great questions, right? Because I'm looking at it from a group level to go, we need to get a group message out there. But then there's the local content that is so important in delivering the group message.
Yes, and contextualizing it for that particular audience.
Yeah, and that's some of the challenges. And again, the questions that you've posed or your team's posed has really made me sit down and think.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
To go, okay, how do we do this? How do we make that work? So the challenges for us, we are 5 operating entities with 5 different names depending on our location. And that's been the challenge of how do we get that message succinct, cater to the local content, because each area is different.
Yeah, and their needs are slightly different, I'd imagine.
They are. I mean, NBN's a prime example. If we have a look at Darwin, they're lucky. They've got fibre everywhere.
Yeah.
Right.
So the messaging up in Darwin is all about fibre, regardless of the NBN type. Yet we come back down into Queensland and we've got 5 different technology types in every one of our footprints.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
and one of the things that we done early on, one of the challenges was we tried to generalise a bit of a brochure, right, a connectivity brochure. It meant nothing to the Darwin landscape because they've got one connection type.
It wasn't necessary up
Correct.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a really good, we'll sort of sit back down and go, all right, how do we not make those mistakes again? And it was understanding the message that we've got to punch out into the local areas, backed by what we need to achieve.
And I remember you telling me too when we were first looking at rolling out that business grade NBN connection, etc., and how there were certain areas where we're not going to need to do too much here because they get it. They've had nothing, they've been starved, they've been in the desert, and this is just the oasis before them. They're going to come flooding in and be happy, sort of thing. Whereas these guys think what they've got is good, but they've actually got no idea what good is. And so now we need to educate them about what next level actual business internet is versus your at-home business, at-home internet, sorry.
Yeah, and it's been,
and again, that's messaging. Yeah,
it's education, it's messaging, it's being a trusted advisor. So I'm a big believer in the world of tech. I've been around long enough to know that I'm not going to have every business as my customer. But one of the philosophies that I've got is, well, if I can educate every business to make true and correct decisions based on their technology stack, well, I've gone a long way to helping the community in bettering themselves.
Rebel's the same, and we definitely believe not everyone is going to be a good fit for us, and we're not going to be a good fit for everyone, or they might have someone they're already really happy with. We don't poach or anything like that. However, we're always happy to educate and empower businesses so they can make informed decisions. Because everyone's only got so much time and money, and we just want to help people use those resources as efficiently as they can so they can have the best business that they can, which, again, I think that's part of our whole mission sort of thing.
And it's a minefield. I mean, marketing in some ways has a lot of similarities to IT in terms that there's that many products, services, apps, programs that can do something.
Yeah.
But which one's right for me and my business at that point in time? It's a minefield.
That problem solving and that sales and education all bundled into one.
And that's when you need someone you trust, especially if it is to you a complete gobbledygook land. No offense. You want someone who can go, okay, Jade, this is what you need. Get this cybersecurity product, and then you do this step, this step, this step, and then everything will be much easier, like you did with me recently.
Correct, and it's aligning it to your business outcomes. That's a massive challenge of actually understanding what is the outcome that I'm trying to achieve.
And not just recommending something because it's what you believe, but actually looking at what they need and recommending as a match between them.
Yeah, and you guys are the same as us in terms of right fit, wrong fits, and making sure that we're a partner. That's a huge thing in our business, is making sure that we actually partner and our advice is taken on its recommendations. We do some deals at times where you go up front, we're not going to be able to make this move forward because you don't share the same philosophies or anything else like that, particularly on the IT side of business with today's world and what we have to protect.
Cool. All right. So that's pretty much covered off on that. Wrap up tip. So I did say that I would let you get on your soapbox about cybersecurity because I know that even though I fucking hate it, it's maybe a little bit important. And
Seems
I know
really important to IT people for some reason. I've noticed that.
Andrew is especially passionate about it. He's had conversations with a couple of staff about passwords and how to like procedures to how to improve that kind of thing. So I know, and I know that you come at it from that educational perspective and everything. I'm like, Andrew's not getting up you. Andrew is trying to help you. And that's why I came to you because I was like, okay, this is becoming a bit of an issue. I thought I had a solution. That solution became a big fucking problem. And then I was like, this is too hard. And I stepped away from it. And then you helped me figure out a new one sort of thing. So if you could get our audience to do one cybersecurity measure, what would it be?
Can I have two?
She's not giving much of a platform. When she said one, I'm like, she just cut the platform in
I was
half.
like, can I have two?
We'll allow it.
Okay.
Just this once.
So the very, very, very first thing is any business of any size. So if you're an ABN holder, doesn't matter if you're a sole trader right through to a big conglomerate, you have to make yourself and educate yourself on your responsibilities around data protection. It's the number one priority right now is businesses of all sizes have an obligation in Australia that's been legislated. So it's in law. The excuse of I didn't know no longer flies.
It's also the integrity as well. That's other people's data. You should be protecting it.
Correct. And the second thing is cybersecurity only works from top down. So managers, leaders, owners, directors of the business.
Oh, so I have to drive it?
You do. You really, really do.
Andrew,
So,
I thought you were just going to give a recommendation for some cool product or something, and here you are like slamming the truth bombs down, man.
you gave me a soapbox. I'm going to use it. I'm going to use it. The fundamental part is that if the owners or leaders or managers of the business do not embrace cybersecurity, it puts that business at more risk than ever. It's really a top-down view.
Because you're setting that culture.
We're setting the culture, but you're taking responsibility in compliance.
If anything does go wrong, it actually is you that's going to have to wear it.
There absolutely is. There's some big fines that have been coming out.
Really?
And they're getting worse. Well, I mean, if you have a look at the big ones that we know about, which is, Optus and Medibank, the costs that those companies are incurring is substantial. Now, put that into a small business. It used to be that if a fire or a flood ripped through your business, what's your continuity? How can you stand back up?
Yeah.
It's now, if you're attacked by a cybersecurity incident, are you able to actually stand your business back up? And then secondly, what's your reputational damage involved in it? And that's why that top down. Now, they don't have to know anything about cybersecurity.
Yeah.
All we're saying is
They just need to know this is how we do this.
take it serious. It's an absolute serious problem. It's not going anywhere. It's only going to get worse.
Worse, yeah, 100%, man. Yep. That's what my dad actually, this is not really the same thing, but my dad, I got a friend request from him on Facebook the other day. And so I rang him. I'm like, Dad, your profile's been thing. I've reported it. You send this link out to everyone, get them to report it. The more people that report it, the better. And he rang me back. He's like, I'm sorry to stress you out so much. That's just me because I forgot the password to my old profile.
It's there, hey. It's all a but that's another prime example there of those scams that are coming on.
That's just on a personal level.
Correct.
You know what I mean? Like, imagine the impact of, a business level of someone getting into your stuff and then getting access to not just your stuff, but other people's stuff, your customers' stuff, the people who have trusted you, and it's,
And that's that reputational damage. I said, you just got to educate. That's why we take it so passionately, and I in particular, is educate, because if we all get smarter together, we can stop these things from happening. It's not going anywhere, but how do we mitigate it? And there's some really, really simple tips to make it better personally and for business.
Yes, okay, I know it's important. I'm still going to tease you about it all the time and go on about how much I hate it, but I give in.
See, that's reciprocal though about what I say to you about marketing. So I'm okay with that.
You know how valuable and amazing and important marketing is, Andrew, don't you?
I do.
Yes,
I absolutely do. And cherish every moment of it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Cool. Oh, thank you so much for coming on today. I hope you had a good time, man. That was really good.
No, thank you for the invite. I've loved it. I think it's a great what you guys are doing here, because this is part of the education, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's what we're basically just saying before. This is like, as much as podcasts are obviously a marketing tool for us, this is also very much about educating people and getting just trying to help as much as you can. Sort
I
of thing.
really enjoyed my time, and thank you for the invitation.
Fantastic. Thank you for coming. And hopefully our listeners have definitely there's lots of points in that. There's something for everyone, I reckon. So
100%.
not being afraid of IT anymore.
Who was afraid of IT?
I'm with you on the anti-printer thing. They are fantastic until you're on a deadline and you need a copy of
I just
something.
hate them so much. That's why I don't want to buy a new one. It's just so painful.
Well, no,
Slash, I'm sure you make the
a
process
dinosaur.
super lovely.
Absolutely will.
You probably need to speak to me.
See you next week.
Sounds good.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Marketing and Margaritas. Find more free marketing tips, tricks and laughs at rebelnation.com.au.